You walk into a coffee shop carrying nothing but a pair of glasses, and seconds later there's a workspace floating in front of you. Inbox on the left, spreadsheet dead center, video call off to the side. To everyone else, you're staring at a wall. That was a preview last time we looked. It isn't anymore. Prices fell, resolution rose, and one pair from that list is already undercut by something cheaper and sharper from the same company. So, 10 of them. Everyone has a catch, and I'll name it. By the end, you'll know which belongs in your bag, which is quietly the best value in the category, and which one is old enough that you should wait. One thing to get straight before we start, because it saves you money. None of these 10 is a computer. Everyone replaces your display and leaves the thinking to something else. A phone, a laptop, a handheld, or in one case, a box the size of a deck of cards. Glasses that boot Windows on their own don't exist yet at any price. Start at the bottom of the price ladder, because this is where most people actually get into this. The Air3S Pro isn't trying to be a spatial computer. It's trying to be a very good screen strapped to your face, and it costs about $300, which is roughly what a decent external monitor costs, except this one folds into a case. The picture is the pitch. A 201-inch virtual screen, 1080p per eye, 120 Hz, and around 1200 nits of brightness. That last number is the one that matters most and gets talked about least. Brightness is what decides whether these are usable on a plane with the window shade up or only in a dark room. Now the honest limitation, and it's a real one, the field of view is about 46 degrees, which is narrow for this class. In practice, that means you can just about take in the whole screen, and some people find they have to nudge the glasses down their nose to stop the bottom edge going soft. Reviewers have also found the software you need for head tracking is still rough. But here's the reframe. A narrow field of view on a cheap pair is an honest trade, not a defect. The optics that widen the view are the expensive part. That's most of what you're paying for further up this list. At $299, you're buying the panel and the brightness, and both of those punch well above the price. There's also the thing that applies to every pair on this list and gets undersold every time. Nobody can see what you're doing. The person beside you on the train sees glasses. Your client deck, your salary spreadsheet, your half-finished resignation letter, all of it stays yours. On a cheap pair, that's a premium feature you got for free. Buy these if you want to find out whether working on a floating screen suits you before spending real money. Which brings us to the pair that makes the same argument with better hardware. Same company, same price, meaningfully better glasses. This is the one I'd point most people at, and it's the clearest sign of how fast this category is moving. It landed at $299 and undercuts pairs costing 2 and 3 times as much without feeling like the budget option. The headline is HDR10, which nobody else in display glasses had first. That sounds like a spec sheet flourish, and it isn't. HDR is the difference between a dark scene looking dark and a dark scene looking gray. And if you're editing photos, grading footage, or just watching something at night, that's the whole experience. Around it, 1200 nits, 120 Hz, and a 4-speaker setup tuned by Bang & Olufsen with sound tubes that cut leakage substantially. The person next to you on the train doesn't get your playlist. And at 76 grams, it's among the lightest in this entire list, about the weight of a small handful of coins on your nose. The limitation, it's still 1080p per eye. If your day is small font code or dense spreadsheets, the 1200 pi pairs further down this list will be easier on your eyes over a full day. And the reframe is simple arithmetic. Going from 1080p to 1200p costs you between $150 and $300 in this market. For most people, email, documents, browser, video, that money buys a difference you'd have to go looking for. Best all-rounder under $300 comfortably. The next pair takes a different route. Instead of a better panel, a bigger one. Rokid went after size and focus rather than sharpness, and for one particular group of people, that's the right call. The screen is a 215-inch virtual display, the largest number on this list, at 1080p, 120 Hz, across about a 50-degree field of view. Wider than the RayNeos, and you feel it. But the feature that actually sells these is the one that sounds boring. Built-in diopter dials, adjustable from 0 to -6. If you're nearsighted, that means you wear these instead of your glasses, not over them and not with a custom prescription insert you have to order and wait for and pay extra for. Nobody else on this list at this price does that. The catches are real though, and there are two. Brightness tops out around 600 nits, less than half what the RayNeo pairs claim, so bright rooms are harder work. And instead of the electrochromic dimming that the premium pairs use to darken their own lenses on demand, you get a clip-on plastic shield. It works. It looks like a clip-on plastic shield. Worth knowing before you buy, Rokid's own published specs disagree with each other on resolution, listing 1080p per eye in one place and 1200p in another. Confirm it with them before ordering rather than trusting a listing. That inconsistency is worth pausing on, because it's the state of this whole market. Specs get restated across store pages, press releases, and retailer listings, and they drift. Brightness figures in particular are manufacturer claims measured however each company chose to measure them, so a 1200 nit pair and a 600 nit pair are not reliably twice as bright as each other. Treat every number in this video, mine included, as a starting point for your own check. Reframe. At 75 grams, with dials that let a nearsighted person put them straight on, these solve a problem the expensive pairs mostly ignore. If you wear glasses, this is the short list. The next one costs more and spends every extra dollar on the panel. This is where the picture gets genuinely sharper, and it's the first pair on the list where text stops being a compromise. The Luma Pro runs a 152-inch screen at 1200p across a 52-degree field of view, about 1000 nits, on Sony micro-OLED panels with Harman-tuned audio. That 1200p is the whole point. It's a modest-sounding jump from 1080p, and it isn't, because you're not looking at a screen across a desk. Every pixel sits centimeters from your eye. Small text is where you notice it, which means code, spreadsheets, and long documents. It also carries built-in myopia adjustment up to -4 diopters, so like the Rokid, a lot of nearsighted people can skip prescription inserts entirely. The limitation is that -4 is a shallower correction than the Rokid's -6, so stronger prescriptions fall outside it. And the RGB lighting on the frame, an industry first, and genuinely the first cosmetic feature to reach this category, is exactly as useful as it sounds, which is not at all if you were planning to wear these on a train. Compatibility is broad, which matters more than the spec sheet suggests. Windows, Mac, Android, iPhone, Steam Deck, Switch. If it pushes video over USB-C, it generally works. The frustration with this category has never been the glasses. It's discovering your particular phone's port doesn't carry video. Reframe. Ignore the lighting, and this is a sharpness upgrade you can actually justify. It sits below the flagships in brightness and screen size, but matches them where it counts for work. If your day is words and numbers rather than films, start here. Now the pair that reset what the mid-range means. Here's the clearest evidence that this category is moving faster than the advice about it. XREAL launched the One S at CES 2026 for $449, $200 less than its own flagship at the time, and gave it a higher resolution than that flagship. 1200p per eye against the One Pro's 1080p, and a spatial screen that scales to 500 inches. Sit with that for a second because it's the most useful thing in this video. The cheaper, newer pair from the same company is sharper than the more expensive one. That is not how this normally works, and it is exactly why buying the top of a range in a young category is often the wrong move. It runs the same X1 spatial computing chip as the flagship, the dedicated silicon that keeps the virtual screen pinned in place with about 3 milliseconds of motion-to-photon latency, which is the difference between a screen that sits still and one that swims when you turn your head. The trade is the field of view. 52 degrees against the One Pro's 57. That's a genuinely narrower window, and if you want the widescreen mode that turns these into an ultra-wide monitor, the flagship still does it better. But the reframe is the price. You're giving up 5 degrees and gaining sharper text, a bigger maximum screen, and $150 back. For most work, that's the better trade. The next pair argues the opposite, that the panel is worth paying for, after all. Quick pause. If you're finding this useful, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this kind of comparison reach people before they spend $300. Right, back to it. We're into the flagships now. If field of view is what's been holding you back, this is the answer to it. The Beast launched in April 2026 at $549 with a 58-degree field of view, the widest number in this entire list. A 174-inch screen at 1200p and 1250 nits in an aluminum magnesium frame weighing 88 grams. Wide field of view is hard to explain and obvious the moment you wear it. Narrow optics feel like looking at a screen through a letterbox. You're always slightly aware of the edges. At 58 degrees, the edges stop demanding your attention, and that's what makes a long work session bearable rather than impressive. Reframe. The weight is the metal frame, and the metal frame is why the optics stay aligned. Plastic is lighter and it flexes. Next, the pair this one was built to beat. This was the pair that convinced a lot of people the category was ready, and it's still the one I'd hand someone who wants a monitor replacement rather than a gadget. A 57-degree field of view, 1080p per eye across a 171-inch screen, The X1 chip doing the spatial work, and Bose-tuned audio in an 87-gram frame. The feature that earns its place is ultra-wide mode. Plug into a computer and it drives a 3840 by 1080 picture. An actual ultra-wide monitor, not a scaled-up phone screen. You turn your head to reach the far edge, exactly as you would with a physical ultra-wide on a desk. For anyone who works across 2 documents at once, that's the single most useful thing on this list. Pair it with the optional camera module and the tracking upgrades from 3 degrees of freedom to 6, which means the screen stays anchored to a spot in the room rather than to your head. You can lean in, stand up, walk around it, reframe. If ultra-wide is your use case, none of the cheaper pairs replicate it, and 57 degrees is still near the top of the category. If it isn't, buy the 1S and keep the money. Now the pair that does the most and asks the most of you. VITURE Luma Ultra. Everything above is a screen. This is the first pair on the list that's genuinely trying to be a computer interface. The specs are the strongest on the list on paper. A 152-inch 1200 pui screen, 52-degree field of view, and 1500 nits. The brightest here by a clear margin, with Harman audio. But the real difference is the cameras. A front-facing RGB camera plus dual grayscale depth cameras, which together give full 6 degrees of freedom tracking and hand gesture recognition. You reach out and move a window with your hand. No controller, no trackpad, no phone, and the panels are more efficient than the previous generation, around 35% less power, which is why the brightness could go up without the glasses cooking your temples. Here's the honest limitation, and it's the biggest asterisk in this video. The 6 degrees of freedom tracking and the hand gestures don't just work out of the box on everything. You need the Pro neckband, or a compatible pod, or the desktop software on Mac or Windows. Mobile support is listed as coming, so the headline feature is real, and it's conditional on buying into the rest of the ecosystem. Reframe. If you already work at a Mac or PC, the software route costs you nothing extra and the gestures work today. If you are planning to run these off a phone, budget for the neckband and read the compatibility page before you order, not after. 2 left, and both of them stop needing your laptop entirely. Rokid AR Spatial. Every pair so far needs something else to do the thinking. This one brings its own. The glasses pair with a station, a small Android TV box, Google certified with Google Play on it. Netflix, Disney+, cloud gaming, browsers, all running on the puck in your pocket, throwing a 215-inch screen into the glasses. There's a trackpad and an air mouse for control, so you're not hunting for a phone to navigate with. The battery is the number that matters. 5,000 milliamp hours, quoted at up to 7 days of standby. On a long-haul flight, that's the difference between rationing your phone battery and not thinking about it. What that changes is subtler than it sounds. With every other pair here, your phone is doing the work. So it's warm, its battery is draining, and every notification lands in the middle of your film. Move the computing to a dedicated box and your phone goes back to being a phone. The limitation is honest and structural. It's a 2-piece system. You are carrying a second object, and if the point of leaving the laptop at home was carrying less, a puck in your pocket is a compromise with that idea. But the reframe is the one that runs through this entire video. A puck is not a laptop. It has no keyboard, no hinge, no fan, no 14-inch slab of glass to protect. And it does the one thing the glasses can't. If you're traveling and you genuinely don't want a computer with you, this is the only setup here that fully delivers on the title. Which leaves the pair that's been doing this longest and the one I'd think hardest about. Still here and still not subscribed? Tap subscribe. It takes a second, and it's the reason these comparisons get made. Done? Good. Last one, and it's the one with a caveat. This is the pair you'll find in engineering firms, hospitals, and factories, and it's here because it does something none of the consumer pairs attempt. It tethers to a PC and puts multiple virtual monitors in fixed positions in the room. Set your browser to the left and it stays there when you turn your head. It runs professional software, CAD, digital twins, 3D models, remote assistance tools. There's an industrial edition with impact-resistant lenses and side shields. At 130 grams, it fits over most prescription glasses. And now the part most videos leave out. The A3 was introduced in January 2021. It runs a Snapdragon XR1, a chip from that era, at 1080p per eye. 5 years is a long time in this category, and it shows. It tethers only to a specific list of ThinkPad models or select Motorola phones, not to whatever you own. It has been appearing on Lenovo's outlet listings, and resellers have flagged limited stock. I'm not going to reframe that one away. If you're buying as an individual in 2026, almost everything above this is newer, sharper, and less fussy about what it plugs into. The reframe that does hold is narrower. If your company already runs the Think Reality platform, has the licenses and issues compatible ThinkPads, then the ecosystem is the product and the hardware age matters less. That's a real scenario. It's just not most people's. So, 10 pairs and no single winner. Because the honest answer depends entirely on what you're carrying them for. If you want to find out whether this suits you at all, the Air 4 Pro at $299 is the best value in the category, and it isn't close. If you wear glasses, the Rokid Max 2's diopter dials solve your problem outright. If you work across 2 documents at once, the XREAL One Pro's ultrawide mode is the reason to spend the extra. If sharp text all day is the job, the One S gives you 1,200 PI for less than the Flagship. If you want the widest, most comfortable view, the Beast. And if you genuinely want to leave every computer at home, the Rokid station setup is the only one here that finishes the sentence. But the bigger thing is what changed between the 5-pair version of this list and this one. Prices fell. Resolution rose. A Flagship got undercut by its own company's cheaper model within a year. Brightness roughly doubled at the top end. That's not a category settling down. That's a category still moving, which is the real argument for buying the sensible middle rather than the top of the range. Because the top of the range is where the depreciation lives. The laptop isn't dead. But the reason you were carrying it is getting easier to leave behind every few months, and at $300, the question has stopped being whether it's worth trying. So tell me in the comments, which of these 10 would actually replace your laptop, and what's the one thing still stopping you? I read them, and this is the topic where the comments consistently teach me more than the spec sheets do.